Or my father, I think kind of quick. So we'll do Ma'ariv, Havdallah, Mourner's Kaddish, El Male, and we have a brief video. Originally, it was 18 minutes long, and then I got some advice from my friend Moshe that that's the amount of time of a sitcom. And so we decided to trim it down a little bit. So thank you for that suggestion, Moishi. All right. Shall we? All right, so I'll ask everybody to mute and well, we'll get started with Mariv. If you want to respond to Mariv, you may unmute as you wish, but then please remember to remute. New word. All right, friends, here we go. We'll daven Mariv. V'hu rachum yichaper avon v'lo yashchit v'hir balash yivchav le'ir kol chamato Adonai Hoshea yaneinu b'yom kareinu Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam. Thank you, God, for the darkness and the light, turning darkness into light. El Chai v'Kayam Tam Yimach L'Olam Va'ed Baruch Ata Adonai Ha'Ma'ariv Arabim. Amen. Thank you, God, for all the love in the world. V'ahavatcha tasir min ha'olamim Baruch Ata Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. You hadvarim ha'ela shanochi mitzavecha yom alavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'diparta bam shibtacha v'etacha v'lachtacha v'derech v'shapcha v'kumecha shotam leota yadecha v'stefot peinenecha chatam amzotlecha v'sherecha. La dama shrish ba la nothing shmai mala arras by Omar Nemo Shalimor Dabe Ritemoto Sartem and Kamis Potarana Temotam Himani Adonai Elohechem Amen. Malkin overlin of earth or it's Machuto Bratson Kibo Alehem Moshe Uvenis Relchanu Shirab Simcha Rabba Vamru Chulam Michamocha Bailim Adonai Mikamocha Nedar HaKodesh Norati Lato Sefele Malchut Haruvanach Bokayam Lifnei Moshe Ze'eli Anu Ve'amru Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed V'ne'emar Kifad Adonai Yaakov Uge'alom Yad Chazak Mimenu Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Amen. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Ushmor Tzeitenu Uvonil Chaim L'Shalom Yatared Olam Baruch Ata Adonai Shomer Amo Yisrael La'ad. There's a special section here called Baruch Adonai L'Olam Amin V'Amen, which is a diaspora addition to the Ma'ariv service. And throughout his life, my father never recited that because he was always on his way to Yerushalayim. Yitkadav Yitkadav Shmei Rabbah. Be'almadi Rakute V'Mif Machute B'Chayechon V'Machon V'Chol Beit Yisrael B'Galav Zman Kariv Imru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah V'Rach Le'olam Amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach yitbar b'tramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei hekudesha b'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata d'ushpachata v'nachmata d'amiran be'alma b'meru Amen. A few moments of silent prayer, our hearts filled with gratitude and memory. Send us healing. We are grateful for our lives that are in your care. Yeah. Ose shalom b'mamav v'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yitgadol v'yitgadash shemei Rabba. Be'alma divra kiruteh v'yamlech malchuteh. V'chayechon v'yamachon v'chayeh l'chol beit Yisrael. V'agalat v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Shmei Rabba bevorach v'olam melamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar b'tramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei l'kudesha b'rihu ha'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'meru amen. We'll pause for Havdallah. El Yeshuati Tavelo Echad Ki Aziv Ezimracha Adonai Vayehi Shua Ushatem Mayim Besason Melo Yohaneinu Beyam Koreinu Laihudi Vaita Ora Mesimcha Besason Vikar Kenti Elanu Kos Yeshuat Esa Ubashem Adonai Ekra Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei besamim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei morei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amin ben yom hashvi l'shishimei ma'aseh Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechol hamavdil ben kodesh lechol chatoteinu yichol tzarenu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kachol ve'akochavim b'layla tzarenu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kachol ve'akochavim b'layla Eliyahu Hanavi Eliyahu Hatishbi Eliyahu Hagiladi Eliyahu Hanavi Eliyahu Hatishbi Eliyahu Hagiladi Bimheira Yavo Eleinu Im Mashiach ben David Mashiach ben David. Beautiful, thank you. We'll continue with Shavua Tov. We continue with Aleinu, Morris Kaddish, and El Malay. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol atikula sebreshit shalosay. Zakori Mashachim Modinu Melech Malchim Lachim Akadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emar b'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz b'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. El malei rachamim shochen b'mromim hamtzeh menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'malot kedoshim u'tehorim gezor harakia mazirim Lenishmat Harav Shneur Abraham ben Yosef Halevi Shalach le'olamo Began Eden Tehei Menuchato Ana Ba'al Harachamim Hastirehu Beseter Knafecha le'olamim Utzvor B'tzor Chaim et Nishmato Adonai Hu Nachalato V'anoch B'shalom Mishkavo V'nomar Amen. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba Be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich machute Chayechon v'yomechon v'chayet chol Beit Yisrael Bagala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam l'mei omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yifar v'traman v'yitnaseh V'tadar v'talel v'talal shmei nekudesha brichu ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'meru amen.
Amen.
Shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'hakol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'hakol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
So friends, a couple remarks and then we'll go to the video. Thank you to Maya for making the video from Tel Aviv, Israel. Number one, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel teaches us about time and how time has different tones and different colors. And this is a moment where it seems as though it's a gateway to a different time. I know the pain and the grief will never go away, but it does feel like this is a gateway, this Yahrzeit moment from my intense grief into a different relationship with my grief, thanks to all of you and my family. Number two, it's unique and rare that relationships get tested in the way that ours was tested this year. And so what I received from all of you, and especially my family, was unconditional love. And that support brought me from low up, but back up on my feet. So a special thanks to Vicky and Nava, who were here with me, and Ariella and Jake and Maya, who also fed me the love. And of course, to my congregation, Bris Shalom, who also supported me and brought me here. And so just a huge thanks. The relationships were all tested, and I'm sorry, and thank you. I appreciate all of you for your presence here this evening and for your presence in my life always. All right, with that, let's go to the videotape. Maya's going to help us from Tel Aviv. Let's see if the technology works. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there you
are. Okay, so I think the major issue, which I think many of us face who are interested in the Torah and live a life in accordance accordance with the dictates of the Torah, and at the same time we're a part of the Western world. That is, in terms of science, in terms of academic scholarship, in terms of what's happening in the world of, as example, archaeology and other fields in the humanities. And then the question is, how can we actually mesh these two worlds? That is the world of Torah, that is living a life which is consistent with the demands of Torah, and on the other hand, realizing that perhaps there are numbers of questions that we have when we begin to deal with the Torah itself. And so the question is, how do we live in these two worlds? And that's what I thought I try to deal with in this week's podcast, to really deal with this issue of how do we live in two worlds.
Beautiful. And just a little personal insight before we dive in, which is thank you for challenging us with that question throughout the years. I have vivid memories of sitting at the Pesach table discussing the historicity of the Exodus. And we, of course, went to Orthodox day schools, so we were kind of bought into the hook, line, and sinker. And you would challenge us to say, what if it didn't happen? What if it didn't happen that way? What difference would it make, right? And so offering us that challenge. And so thank you for that. And I'm glad to share that challenge that you raise and that really motivates you in your life and your faith with us. So let's do it. Used to stand up and tell stories, right? And I still remember the nigun. How's it go? And in between, you would tell the story and then come back to the chorus of the nigun. So why did you choose to tell stories instead of give a Devar Torah or something like that? What's the power of the story in that scenario? And more broadly, about tell us a little about the literary device of a story.
So the story itself is really interesting because now I learned the technique I learned because of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, because at one point in his life, what he decided to do was instead of just giving didactic lessons, just give lessons and speak and speak and speak. What he decided to do is that he decided to tell stories. And the question is, why did he decide to tell stories? I mean, of all the things to do, telling stories is not, generally what, the Hasidic rabbis would do. They would generally speak. But he decided to tell stories. And the reason that he decided to tell stories is because, as you and I know, what the story is very engaging. And what happens is that when somebody tells the story, it's the listener becomes a part of the story itself, becomes a part of the storytelling. And so in a story, generally what happens is that we find ourselves someplace in that story. And so as we begin to listen to the story, we begin, our imaginative faculty begins to start working. And so what happens is that we take the story and we internalize that story, and we internalize the lesson of the story appropriately to each and every one of us. So this story.
And I heard another topic come up at the beginning. What was that topic? Literary analysis in the Torah. Yeah, beautiful.
And once again, I want to emphasize that, don't forget, I'm coming from Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, the holy city of Yerushalayim.
Yes.
And it's just a miracle to be able to live here in Yerushalayim. Rabbi Nachman, by the way, one day he came out of the mikveh, he looked at his wife and his 6 children, and he said to them, guys, I'm leaving. And they asked him, where are you going? He said, I'm going to Israel. And he actually went to Israel. And then when he got back from Israel, he said, every step that I take, every place that I go, I'm on my way to Israel. So that's what I want to tell people. You should be on your way out of the coronavirus, on your way to Israel.
Every step. As a kid, I have this weird memory. I think I might have been 7 or 8, that I was rummaging through your dresser at some point, and I found some shkalim. I found, some coins, and then I asked you about the coins. Do you remember why you had coins?
I always had the coins. I always kept the coins because I figured that someday the Mashiach is going to come, and when we come to Israel, we're going to need some money for transportation. We're going to need some money for food when we get here. So I always had some shkalim just in case the Mashiach would be here faster than I thought I would get to Israel.
Yeah, so it was a very formative memory for me. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, I remember a bus fare. It was bus fare for when you get to Jerusalem.
Right. But yet, even beyond, there's this wonderful land of Israel, and I encourage all of you to come and
That's
to
what I was
visit,
waiting for.
and also to make Aliyah. It's the greatest place in the world.
Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim habnuya.
Amen.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
And yes, I will take you up on your offer to come back again and talk about some Hasidic approaches to Jewish life.
Okay. Very nice. Bye-bye.
Shalom.
Thank you, Maya. That was beautiful. In memory of my father, I have 2 projects that I'm going to embark on. One of them is tripling down on my chavrutot. I'm learning some Torah with friends from Israel and scholars and friends here in Houston. And so, Zecher Nishmat Harav Shnei Avraham ben Yosef Halevi, I'll be tripling down on my Torah learning this year and beyond. And the second commitment is to get more involved in the educational system here at Brit Shalom. My father spent his life in the field of education, wrote amazing scholarly articles that we have, and I'm starting to review and looking forward to getting more involved with the young families here at the shul and in the field of education in general. And so thank you all for being here. Shavua Tov. And I really appreciate your presence. Laila Tov, everybody.
Much love.
Love you, Ron.
Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov.
Shavua
Shavua
Tov. Thank you
Tov.
all for being here. Appreciate it a lot.
Shavua Tov.
What's up?
Hope to
Speak in a good year.
soon.
Amen. Amen.
Good travels, Ariella and Nava. Safe travels.
Ariel and Nava are heading to Israel on a Monday morning.
Fulfilling part of history.
That's right. That's right.
Love you.
Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi, for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Shavua Tov.
Thank you. Shavua Tov.
Miss you. I'm sending lots of love.
Thank you. Shavua Tov, everybody.
Shavua Tov.